Hello, my name is James Bebbington, and this is my Soccer and Society presentation on my club. The specific club I'm doing is Manchester United, and I will be talking about ownership, fans, and commercialisation with a quick summary at the end. In this slide, I will talk about the brief history of the club of Manchester United and its early formation as Newton Heath in 1878, making it an extremely old club. Formed by workers of Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, so the working class, in which I'll talk about in the commercialisation slide, and how it was renamed Manchester United in 1902. The club went on to win its first English League Championship in 1907-08, and the club in 1910 moved from Old Bank Street ground into the Old Trafford Stadium, which has served as their team's home ground ever since. From Old Trafford, they have undergone a lot of success. They won the Chocolate Division Championship a record 20 times, and the FA Cup 12 times. As you can see as well, they've won a lot in Europe, two Champions League, one European Champions League club, and many others. It's a very successful club. It's arguably one of the biggest in the world, and it's extremely rich, as I will talk about again in commercialisation and ownership. On this slide, I'm just going to talk about ownership. Malcolm Glazer, current ownership, Malcolm Glazer began his investment into Manchester United in 2003, buying 3% of shares, and gradually increased these shares until finally launching a massive 790 million takeover bid until 2005. This wasn't wanted with fans. It was deeply unpopular, as the takeover was predominantly financed through loans secured against the club's assets. So because the club was so large, it could take in loans, and basically the Glazers were paying for the club with the club's assets itself, so not any of their own money. It cost the Glazers $1 billion to service the debt, which enraged the fans. The owners cashed themselves dividends from the club as well, so they invested a bit of money to get a few shares within the club, and then mostly they took out loans from within the club and held them against the club, so the club owes the debt. This has eventually built up to a massive £500 million debt, and before this the club was actually debt free. So this just goes to show how deeply unpopular it was with the fans, as before this ownership came into account, there was no debt towards the club. The Glazers chose one of the three types of ownership which Walters and Hamels talk about in 2010. They chose the stock market model by buying 3% of shares and then increasing this finally in 2005. Walls and Hamill also talk of some Manchester United fans pushing for a supporter trust model of ownership, with the Manchester United Supporters Trust or Must being set up. If the Glazers do decide to sell the club, in which I'll talk about in the summary, we could see a supporters trust model. However, Brown in 2007 quotes that the supporters trust model has totally failed to demonstrate how it can work in a company the size of Manchester United, where major corporate finance is needed to create a meaningful stake. It just goes to show we haven't seen a massive club use a supporter trust model, so we don't know how well it would work or if it would work at all. On this slide, I'm going to talk about fans, types of fans, and Manchester United fans specifically. It goes on from the ownership, as Brown in 2007 talks of the failure of the highly politicised and radicalised fan organisations to stop the takeover of the Glazers, and the destruction of the community this entailed, with many ultras and hooligans causing damage to the club to an attempt to stop the Glazers takeover, however failing. Manchester United still, however, have one of the largest fan bases in the world. They have 74,000 fans per game at Old Trafford since 2009 on average, which is one of the highest in the league. Furthermore, according to Kantar, Manchester United unparalleled fan base boasts 659 million global Manchester United fans, or 8.55% of the estimated population of the world. This is an insane amount of fans, and I think this definitely depends on what actually you would call a fan, and this links to Julian United's, I can't pronounce it, study of fans, which he talks about the four ideal types of spectator identity: supporters, followers, fans, and flaneurs. The broad trend in sports identification is away from the support model, with its hot traditional identification with the local clubs, being very close, attending all the games, and towards a more detached, cool, consumer-orientated identification of a flaneur, not really watching many games, maybe tracking a few results, but not as committed to the club as the support or the fans. A person may say they support a club, but only follow, as in no tracking results and not watching a game, and just saying you support the club. These people aren't really fans. I think this makes up this figure, as these people might say they support Manchester United, but really aren't fans. In this slide, I'm going to talk about commercialisation and the runaway of Premier League clubs, especially Man United being one of the largest from the working class. Manchester United have 24 global partners, which is an insane amount. It's just really for sponsorships and money. Weber here talks about Sky BT booking a new deal with the Premier League worth over $5 billion just to televise England's top division matches. It's an insane amount of money, and just shows that these clubs nowadays are only really interested in the money and not in the love of the beautiful game. Weber continues to state that football is a people's game and has a unique place in modern Britain, yet the Premier League and its clubs' breakaway to massive financial heights highlights the abandonment of the people for the sake of money. Sky Sports and BT memberships cost around £65 a month, which you need both to watch both cup games and league games. December Premier League games are shown on Amazon at $18.99 a month. I calculated that it combines to about £724. This is cheapest for a full year of watching football just from your television. I think this shows another example of the alienation of the working class in which this sport originated from and still bear its roots in, as this is a lot of money for a year, and potentially what some people can't afford to just watch the club that they once used to love. Walks in 2017 said the history of the game in England and elsewhere suggests that it emerged within industrial cities to provide a sense of cohesion to workers and their towns, and now with just watching the games on television, not being able to go to the grounds maybe because you can't afford it, just shows an alienation of the working class and the sport. Furthermore, statistics from Statista show that Manchester United have the 7th most expensive season ticket in the Premier League at £532. So just to watch your team for every home game is also extremely expensive. To me, this shows that clubs are no longer for the people, and it's quickly just becoming a money's game. Beacon de Rome in 2022 explained the relationships between profit and non-profit organisations have been transferred from corporate philanthropy to integrative sponsorship partnerships. So basically, sponsorships is all about profit, and it's no longer companies' willingness to create a positive impact upon society like football clubs used to do. It's now all about money gain. In summary, recently the ownership have decided they were going to sell the club. There's been no advancements yet as of yet. However, some people may suggest we might see a supporters trust model. However, I don't think this is realistic. Brown suggests it may not work at such a large club, and I've got to agree. I don't think that it would work properly at a large club, even though myself as a fan would love to see a supporter trust model, as it would mean we have a lot more control of the club, and we don't have an extremely rich businessman who only wants money running the club. With the fans, Manchester United seem to have a massive fan base. They have a massive attendance, but are these people really fans? I talk about fans of flaneurs. A lot of the global fans being simple flaneurs, not actually following any results, just saying they might be a fan, not a true supporter of the club. We're seeing a different definition of fans nowadays, as it used to just be, if you were a fan of a club, you went to the club, you watched the games, you tracked the results, but now it's just, you call yourself a fan, but really you don't do anything towards the club. And finally, on to commercialisation. Corporate companies such as Manchester United have been blinded by money. It's taken them away from the roots in the working class. As we can see, I've explained how the sport originated in the working class and they've been alienated. The Premier League has broken away from the rest of the clubs and it's just charging towards money. I think the recent Super League proposal further proves this point. Thank you for listening to this presentation today. This is the reference list.